Working with investors is the hidden cheat code of real estate. Repeat clients, fast deals, less emotion, and more money. But only if you know what you're doing. They're not going to waste their time working with agents who don't. Let me show you how to become their secret weapon so you can use them to make more money in real estate. So as an agent, one of the main reasons in which why you should be working with investors, man, there's so many. But let's start out with the first one, is that you can get paid more. You have so many opportunities to get paid. In fact, you can get paid more. From investors, you can get paid 3 times if you're working with a flipper, right? And I'll tell you how you can get paid 3 times. Once, when you help them find the property, you can represent them as a buyer's agent and you get your buyer's agent commission. Bang, we got 1. Number 2 is after they flip the property, renovate the property, and they list it because you helped them buy it, they're also going to use you as the listing agent. So now you got 2. And then as we talked about in our other videos, as a listing agent, it's a lot easier to get buyers also too. So now we've got 3. You help buyers as the listing agent. You got 3 different ways to get paid as a real estate agent. And why I love investors also too is because versus regular buyers, they'll buy with emotion. They're like, I'm not gonna buy this house because the grass isn't as green as I want. They're buying with emotions, right? An investor, they don't care nothing about that. They care about numbers. Do the numbers make sense at the end of the day? They'll even buy in unappealing locations that normal buyers wouldn't even dare venture to if the numbers do make sense. So you need to know how to be able to run the numbers for an investor to make sure that it makes sense for them. Or if they bring you the deal and the numbers make sense, okay, cool, we're rocking out from there. And let's talk about more ways in which you can ensure payment when you're working with investors. A lot of real estate agents, when they go to work with a seller, all they know is just to list the property. Well, what happens if the property's pretty messed up or it needs work or the seller's facing some difficulty or they need to sell their property very quickly? A regular listing won't work. So many agents leave money on the table because all they know how to do is just list the property. Literally, I've seen agents walk out of appointments, shake the seller's hand and say, hey, I can't help you out, just because the property is not listable. Now you, because you're working with investors, you have a multitude of options that you can offer that home seller. This home seller is distressed, they need to sell their property quick. Okay, bam, cash offer from your investor. They've got some low equity, things like that. Okay, cool. What about creative financing from your investor? You just have so many different tools in your tool belt that you can make sure that you're helping out as many clients as possible, because at the end of the day, that's our goal, right? To help out as many clients as possible. And also the great thing I love about investors is investors do talk. A lot of investors have like a more tighter knit network, especially if you're in a certain area. It's usually the same investors that are doing deals over and over and over. And pay attention, I'm going to talk about that in a second, in which how investors will give you a multitude of deals per year. But going back to how investors talk, they talk about the good agents, they talk about the bad agents. So don't be one of those agents in which they're talking bad things about. Be one of those agents that they're talking great things about. I'll be honest with you, a lot of investors are not loyal to a particular agent that they're using. They just use them kind of just because like they have no choice, just as like a default. So if you can become an investor's go-to agent, that's what they're going to do. They're going to give you to all the other investors in their network, and now you've got more deals and deals just flowing in over and over and over. And as I just mentioned before, investors, they're typically not just doing 1 deal a year, because the money that is going to come in from that deal, and what do they got to do to save money on taxes and also just be smart and increase their money? They're going to put that into a different property, and they're just going to keep on scaling up and going up and up. It's very easy to get 20 plus deals from one investor in a year. And trust me, I know it is because I did it myself. I had an investor in which I was working with, we were doing a novations tactic, and I was very familiar with novations. I operated it very well, and based off his acquisition and disposition, we were able to scale that up really quickly. So we just kept on doing deals over and over. Before you know it, I believe we did around 30 or so in a year, just from that one particular investor. And this isn't even with all my other clients. So I was able to have a great year that year and continues to keep on having great years. And as I said, he introduced me to other investors in his market too. Now, if you're like me, you're smart, you're listening, you're probably foaming at the mouth right now, trying to figure out how can I find these investors? I need these investors in my network. I need to be working with these investors. Well, I'm gonna tell you where exactly you can find these investors. All you gotta do, log on, go to social media, go to Facebook. Look at your local real estate mastermind, your local real estate group. See, okay, who's buying deals, who's posting a lot in there. When they're posting, are they getting a lot of engagement? Who seems to be that go-to person for the group? That's an investor you should target yourself. Or if you find a deal, all you gotta do is just post it in the group and investors will come from that. So that's social media aspect right there, right? Now let's talk about in person. A lot of investors do host in-person networking events in which all the investors are there, whether they're newer, whether they're medium, whether they're experts. All the investors will typically be there. And another place you can find investors in person is just by walking the neighborhoods and going to different job sites. If you see a house that looks like it's being worked on, you can just pop up there. Now, a lot of times you'll meet the contractors, but just ask the contractors for their bosses. So you're tracking with me. We know the importance of working with investors. Now we know where to find investors. Now it's all about how can we convert that investor from somebody we just know to actually working with them, having a relationship where we're both making money. And to do that, you need to know their language. You need to know the math and why they're buying these properties. Because investors just not going to buy a property just to buy a property. The math has to make sense. The numbers do have to make sense. So you need to know that for yourself also, so you can pitch to them those deals and you can provide value to them. So the very first thing that you want to know when you're working with investors is ARV. As a real estate professional, you need to know what ARV is. ARV stands for after repair value. And how you can find the ARV for a property is just looking at comps at the end of the day. You want to see what have renovated properties that are similar to your subject property, what have they sold at, or the average or sum of what these properties have sold at, so you can know after the property is flipped what the property is worth, right? So once you have the ARV, you're going to figure out what is the investor's MAO. Now, MAO stands for max allowable offer. MAO for each investor is going to be different, to be honest with you. A lot of investors will use the 70% rule. I myself don't like the 70% rule because it's been explained to me many times, but I still can't figure out what is included in the 70%. So I'll use a different rule, but you want to talk to your investor and see what is the rule that they use. And based on their MAO, then you can present deals to the seller. As I talked about in previous videos, you can find deals on the MLS any day, all day, every day, to be able to present it to the seller. Now, that's if they are looking to do more so fix and flip, but what if you're working with a buy and hold investor? Well, you need to be able to understand cap rate. You need to know what is the certain cap rate for the particular area in the city that they're in. What is a good one, what is a bad one, and do the numbers make sense as far as the cap rate in which they're looking for? So we know how to speak their language now. We know the deals that they're looking for. We know the numbers that they're looking for. Let's go further into how you can bring them value. As an investor, typically you're busy. As an investor, a lot of times you have capital. How do you gain capital? From doing other things that bring you money. So a lot of times you're busy doing those things that are bringing you money. So you may not have time to find deals all day. So me personally, as an investor, I don't have the time to find deals. But what I do like is when people do bring me the deals. And that is a valuable agent to me, an agent who can bring me deals and they're already fully underwritten, where I can know, okay, if I do this deal and I purchase it at this price, this is the exact profit that I'm going to make. As an investor myself, I do not like when I have to do a bunch of work. And anytime when I say work, I'm meaning I have to underwrite the deal and find out all the math and things like that, because it just can be a lot. Now, as a smart investor, I will do some of that myself also too. But if an agent brings me a deal and I see the spread is there, I'm hitting the profit margin that I do want to make, okay, I'm interested. I'm gonna take it a step further. I'm gonna research it a little bit more. So make sure that you're bringing the value to those investors by actually underwriting the deals for them. This is something that's going to make you a lot of money. It's only going to take you 15 to 30 minutes extra. Once you really figure out the MAO that they're looking for, it doesn't take that long to be able to underwrite the deals for them. Being that you know how to analyze the deals, you just got to find them now. And finding deals, honestly, guys, it's not that hard. It just takes a bit of time to do. So what you can do is, you're a real estate agent, you're working with buyers a lot of times you're already showing homes, you're already driving to all these different neighborhoods. So what I would recommend that you do is, instead of after showing just leaving immediately and going wherever after, take about 15 to 30 minutes, just drive around the neighborhood. Look for homes that are potential investment properties. And if you don't know homes that could be good potential investment properties, look at my other videos where I discuss clearly what investors are looking for when it comes to homes. You want to look for off-market homes. A lot of times you can look for on-market homes, I will say that, but you just have to negotiate a deal. A lot of times on-market, it kind of kills the spread and it kills the profit a bit because you just have to pay so many different parties, versus if it was off-market, you don't have to worry about any of that. So make sure that you're finding deals and bringing the investor these deals with them fully underwritten, where the numbers make sense for the investor. And if you do that, your investors are going to love you. You're going to make more money. As I talked about at the start of the video, if you work with flippers, you can make at least 3 streams of income from one potential deal. But what about wholesalers? Now you may ask, Chris, what is a wholesaler? A wholesaler is a person who sells the deal to the flipper. So what a wholesaler will do is they'll acquire a property and they'll basically sell the contract to that flipper, and that flipper will do the rehab, they'll do the renovations all on their own, and then they'll list it on the market. So that is what a wholesaler will do. Now, a lot of times people may say, I don't want to work with wholesalers. Wholesalers can be a waste of time. I don't think so, to be honest with you, because wholesalers are really putting in that groundwork. They're really going out and finding the off-market properties. They're finding deals and they're locking them up at a low rate. So I think it would be smart as a real estate professional to establish a great relationship with the wholesaler, because things with wholesalers is every deal may not work as a wholesale goes, right? But that's where you come in as a real estate professional. You say, Mr. Wholesaler or Mrs. Wholesaler, this deal just simply doesn't work. Numbers don't work for you to be able to sell that contract to a flipper. But what you can do, because the seller probably wants too much, what I can do is I'll list it, and not only will I list it, I'll give Mr. and Mrs. Wholesaler a fee for that, and that keeps them happy because they're still getting paid, versus if you didn't step in, they would have to release from that contract because the numbers don't make sense and no one's going to buy their deal. So I've been an agent for years now, and I've talked to hundreds, probably thousands of real estate agents at this point. And one of the biggest concerns among real estate agents is they feel their business is not predictable. They see a lack of consistency. And they say the reasons for that is because they're just hoping and praying that the market is good. So if interest rates go up, the buyers, they drop off. Sellers, they drop off. You know, if a world event happens, people just get scared and stop. Well, that's because they're working with the average regular consumer. And remember, the average regular consumer, they're usually operating off of emotions. Versus when you work with investors, that, my friends, that is how you have a very predictable business, because you know your investor is going to purchase X amount of properties per month. And when your investor closes, they're going to get flipped, or they're going to get rented, or whatever is going to happen from it. So you can have a very predictable business. And that's just one investor. Like I told you, I gave you an example. I had an investor that did 30 plus properties. That's just one. What if you can get 2, 3, 4, 5 investors? That's how you see these agents who are selling hundreds of properties per year. It's because they have great investors that they're working with. And that's just the start. If you really get in good with an investor, not only can you get paid a commission, but you can even partner on some deals in which you're getting paid long-term passive income now, or even good, pretty great short money in terms of if you partner with them on a flip. So there's just so many different opportunities when working with investors, working with your traditional client. Working with investors is how you scale fast, and I want you to become their go-to agent. I put together a free PDF called the Investor Agent Toolkit that features deal analyzers, key terms, and how to talk the talk to win over investors and make sure investors are using you as their go-to agent. To get that, all you gotta do is click the link below, click the link in the description, and you get that for free. Now, if you're interested in anything about real estate or real estate investing, just watch the next video. Bye.